So, happy Halloween. Where's your costume? Or are you in it?
I'm in it.
Okay, so what?
Hired media broadcast professional.
Is that what it is?
Yes. Before we get into the topics that I haven't stared at, I know you sent them to me via text and I didn't want to see them.
That's okay.
These days we get a lot of spam accounts in our social media.
No, I don't know what you're talking
You'll get
about.
like on the 280 character app, you'll get this thing where it'll be like a name and then like 38 numbers after it.
Yes.
I now am, and I don't know how I got this lucky. There are professional teams that actually do have their own social media accounts. But someone has decided on some level that a lower division soccer league is where they're going to stake their claim on repeatedly false accounts. I'm serious. There's one league in particular that this individual or group is attaching themselves to, and literally they will sit there and they'll follow me on the 280 character app, assuming that I won't go and actually check and see what the real Twitter handle is for this particular team. And I mean, I kind of play along with it. I sit there and it's just like, okay, sure, I'll friend them back. But they assume that you're going, and it's like it's as professional as it is. I mean, it's got the pictures and it's got the photos and everything.
Oh yeah, it's the full deal.
And so, legitimately, these folks sit there and think that I'm going to get all of the information about this particular team that they are impersonating by going to them instead of, looking at the press releases that I actually get from the team that actually do have the real
that are legit
social handles that are attached. And I just found it interesting and somewhat random that a third division league in the United States for soccer was where someone was staking their claim to be a third division soccer league when they are not, in fact, a third division soccer league.
Is this a case of people having way too much time on their hands? Or?
I think so, and it's just like, when somebody sends you an invoice from PayPal or Builders Square or Zellers or something, and it's like, here, pay this invoice, You didn't pay for your Timbits the other day at Tim Horton. Click on this email and click on this PDF and go pay this bill, and so that way they get into all of your files and everything. But I just found it random that a third division soccer league team and teams would sit there and go, yeah, we're going to try to get at him this way. No, it doesn't quite work that way.
Thank goodness.
It's hilarious, and I find it's like I'm not gonna go digging and find out. Yeah, no. And it's like, and the league started a couple of years ago, and the alleged 280 character account started this month, and this team has been in the league for like 3 years. Oh, we just started our 280 character app this month, and I'm like, yeah, whatever.
Come on,
jackass.
Move on.
Yes.
Okay, you feel better? Got that out now?
No, I don't feel better. It was just a point of fact that this is what's going on. So what's topic number one?
Topic number one, you ask, you shall receive. Game 6 tonight.
Can you please, for the rest of Major League Baseball, put us out of our misery and knock off the Doyers?
This team, John, again, Game 6, Toronto's up 3-2. If you have not been following baseball and you've been living under a rock, then you don't know that. So the series could have been done if the Jays came out on top in that 18-inning absolute marathon. Then if the other games ended up the way that they did, then the Jays would have already done this thing and they would have done it in 5 and won 4-1. But that's not the case, so there is at least 2 more, if necessary. The Jays want to end this thing tonight. This, to me, it's an incredible story based on where the Jays were last season. There's so many storylines within this thing. Ernie Clement, who has really become one of the most notable Blue Jays in this country, and everyone just loves the guy. Remember when he was asked before Game 1, he said, yeah, some people are saying this is a battle between David and Goliath, and the Dodgers are Goliath and you're David. To which Ernie looked at them and said, well, didn't David win? And I thought that was a great quote.
And also, it's not like it's Pittsburgh.
No.
Toronto has spent a fair amount of dollars on their payroll, and it's not like it's not alms for the poor, It's not like loonies and it's not loonies and toonies in between the cushions with the sofa pizza that you get from Pizza Pizza. No, it's not as disparaging as you would think. It is still disparaging, yes, and the Doyers don't really care about how much money they seem to spend as long as they make it all back in merchandising and they break even. That's fine. But it's not as disparate as you would think But at the same time, Toronto's minor league system, when you bring in somebody like you Savage, and it's like, seriously, those kinds of stories, that's your minor league system. That's your scouting system, not dropping $9 bazillion on a particular player and then doing that all the way down your roster.
When Savage started game one again, in game number 5, it was one of the most incredible performances in the history of baseball and in the history of the playoffs and the history of the World Series. It was phenomenal. The guy's unreal.
Phenomenal.
But before game one started, they had this graphic. I want to talk about the money that you were just saying, that there is not a huge gap between total payroll. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago. But there was a huge gap in that opening lineup between Toronto and the LA Dodgers. I mean, I don't know the exact numbers, but you go from Shohei to Mookie to Hernandez. Blake Snell was pitching. Let's not forget, he makes about $1 billion per start.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have Max Muncy. He makes a lot of money. So, but if you look on the other side, it was Davis Schneider making this. It was Miles Straw when he would making this. It was Trey Savage. I think he made $57,000 or something like that. So the whole thing with this Jays thing, to me, it is not about the money. What it is what they've done from a season ago. They finished dead last, John, in their division, 20 games back of the Yankees. And I remember a few things in that. Toward the end of the season, their top prospect, Orelvis Martinez, who highly touted, he came in, made his debut, then he was busted a few days after for PEDs. And then they tried before to sign Shohei, didn't want to do it. They tried to sign Juan Soto, didn't want to do it. They tried to sign Roki Sasaki. Guess what? He ended up signing with the Dodgers. Everybody seems to. And then Vladdy's saying, I'm not going to negotiate in the season. Bo Bichette saying, I don't know if I want to be here after this season. And now they're a win away. You encompass all that together in what has happened in a year, maybe a bit more than that for this Toronto Blue Jays team. It's astonishing.
Yeah, payroll difference is $321 U.S. to $239 U.S. But it's where you choose to invest, and it's not just sitting there and going, well, we're just going to throw money at the problem, and then that'll fix it. It is throwing money at an issue, trying to make sure that those stars will stay, and at the same time finding those other avenues to bring folks in, whether it's a Rule 5 or a minor league system or what have you. I cannot recall the last time anyone from Albuquerque or wherever and this is the other thing, is I don't know where the AAA affiliate is for Los Angeles right now,
right?
Because I can't remember the last time that someone came up through their system that made the kind of impact.
That's a great point. That is a great point. They don't need to, because they just go out and they get everybody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like, hey, we're the Doyers. You want to come play in L.A.? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Here, sign this, and you're done.
Yeah,
it's not something where you're staring at AAA baseball and going, okay, who's the next big thing? You can do that with Toronto, with the build and who they've kept. You can't quite do that the same with the Doyers and who they brought in.
Dodgers, they need to win tonight for Game 7. That'll be tomorrow. On Saturday, if necessary, the Jays trying to win their first World Series, well documented since 1993. They had that run of 2 in a row, one against Atlanta, then the other against Philly. Tonight, John, according to the latest from what I've seen, it will be the most expensive sporting event in Canadian history until maybe we get to Game 7. So I'm looking right now at the latest on, like, you can see this right now.
Yeah, I got you.
Okay.
You're good.
So right down to the behind the Dodgers dugout, first row, there's the price in Canadian dollars, and then underneath the price it says amazing deal in bold green letters. Underneath the dollars, again, were those words, and according to this, per ticket, you're at about $12,660. That's, again, right behind the Dodgers dugout. The most inexpensive ticket, 5 left, way up in the 500s, 1,952 Canadian dollars.
Mm-hmm.
Would you go if you had that money?
No.
I wouldn't either.
No.
I would much rather, which is what I'm going to do. I'm going to watch it on my TV. I've enjoyed watching the games, and I'm going to tell the trick-or-treat people, 8 o'clock tonight, Eastern, I'm sorry, porch lights are off, house is closed, Halloween's over.
Just take the bowl, put it on the front stoop.
I already have a sign. I have a sign. Take whatever's left.
Watching the Blue Jays game, take whatever's left. Thanks for dropping by, but 8 o'clock, it's Buck, Dan, and Hazel May, and I'm good to go. So I mean, that's all that matters. It's just like that's we're there.
It's going to be fun. Good on the Jays, good on the Dodgers too. Look, it's hard to continue. Well, I don't know if it's hard, but you have such a studded lineup. To keep getting back to where they're at is tough to do. For the Jays to do what they've done, it's pretty impressive. So we'll see.
But there are points where I think the Doyers have been exposed, and it's in their pitching and
yes, absolutely,
the depth of the bullpen. Look, they can smash the ball like anybody's business.
Yeah,
that's easy.
Yeah,
but I think the depth of the bullpen and the depth in your starting, I think that is what you're staring at. That you're looking at. Okay, so Boley Clear Lake, what are you going to be spending money on next season? Well, it's going to be this, and I think that it's going to be. I think it's going to be fourth and fifth starters and bullpen and long relief and those kinds of things. So that's your closers and such. That's going to be the next stuff.
Do we go Game 7? Yes or no?
God, I hope not.
No, that's not what I asked. Yes or no?
God, I hope not.
Let's move on. I have a huge thing with this, and I think we've talked about this over the course of the last number of years that we've been doing this load management, especially in the NBA. Michael, there's certain players and athletes and icons that when they speak, everybody listens. And Michael Jordan, when he speaks, everybody listens. So he had an interview recently, and the discussion was about load management. And it was Mike Tirico asking MJ about load management. He essentially is saying, look, you play 2.5 to 3 hours a day. That's how long a basketball game is. That's your job. What are you doing for the other 21 hours? Well, we know what Chauncey Billups and Damon Jones and everybody was doing.
Allegedly.
We'll get into that in a second.
Yes.
But Michael Jordan said, quote, it should not be needed first and foremost. And he was asked, what about you? Did you ever think, remember that flu game he had? Mm-hmm. Did you ever think to see? He said, no. He said, because there's some person in the top row, in the top section, whether it was the United Center in Chicago where they used to play or wherever else in the NBA, that may have spent their entire week's salary to come and see me play. So I have a job, I have a duty to make them think, hey, that ticket was worth it. He may not be feeling well. He may not be 100%, may not be 80%, but the guy's playing. I completely applaud Michael Jordan for this.
Yeah, well, I mean, and I wonder just how many athletes today have that same mindset of you never get a second chance to make a first impression. And if you are, and there's a lot of the caveat emptor that's attached to this too. Buyer beware for those that didn't take 2 years of Latin in either high school or 2 semesters in college. There's a lot of buyer beware. There's a lot of assumed risk. And it's something that I know that people kvetch about a lot, but you have to keep that in mind when it comes to purchasing a ticket to an event involving the stars and all of that stuff. So it is, I understand an athlete wanting to be there, and it's like, oh, I'm tired, I don't want to do anything. And I know that there are a lot of times, we've seen it in other sports, where the stars in the sport, they sit there and they go, well, I'm not feeling it today. You never know, but that's the thing. It's like if you manage, because they are businesses today. They are more businesses today than they were when we were growing up.
You're being a baby. If you're complaining, if you can't do that for 82 games in a season, getting paid what? $1 billion, you've got an issue. You've got an issue. And there was a study recently that said there was no direct link whatsoever between load management and less risk of getting injured. So if you sit out, there was no link to that, and it'll help you get less. You may not get hurt because you're sitting out if you're not feeling good. The study said there's no link to that. I just think these guys are spoiled. And look, there's no load management in hockey, John. I don't see it quite a lot in the NFL. I know they play once a week. It's maybe a bit different, but playing in the NFL for 3 hours, that's crazy. That's like 2, 3, 4, 5 games a week in one day because of the amount of physicality there is involved in the NFL. I don't see it in baseball. You play 162. It's a grind. Mookie Betts said the other day, we're exhausted, but we're still playing. I think the NBA, it's a joke. It's an absolute joke that these guys think, oh, I'm not feeling it tonight, so I'm going to take a little bit of a rest and take a night off and get back at it 3 days from now or 5 days from now with their next game.
So then when Greg Popovich had Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili, Tim Duncan, and David Robinson, if he had 3 games in 5 days against Eastern Conference competition and he was looking out for the greater picture about having them as healthy as possible for a playoff run and for a game against an Eastern Conference team that meant nothing.
Hold on, though. But are you like if this is kind of toward the end of the season? If this is toward the end of the season, to your point, wherein you need to rest up some of your stars because say you got 2 games to go or 3 games to go, and then you're in a game 1 of a series. I understand that, but if it's midway through or even the beginning of the year, there's no reason Greg Popovich should sit any of those.
I mean, that's a Pop question, but that's why he was one of the best coaches around. It has to.
Oh, I get it. Yeah, I love Pop. We all love.
It has to do with the management of that particular moment and the greater picture as you're chasing after a championship. So I'm looking at it on a case by case basis. I'm looking at it as where you are in the schedule. I'm looking at it as to what impacts it. And does it matter in the grand scheme of things when it comes to, okay, this midweek game, if I'm hopscotching the country and I need to make sure that they're going to be good. This game in New Jersey, if I'm in San Antonio, this game in New Jersey, if I'm on a 3-game roadie and I'm going Madison Square Garden, TD Garden, and the Prue, the one against the Nets, if it's at the Prue or wherever it is in Brooklyn or what have you, I'm thinking that one I might sit that one out.
Sure, that's fine later on in the season, but I don't think you should do that at all over the course of the season if you're healthy enough to play. You're getting paid to play a sport for a living. These guys need to figure that out and understand it's a gift. Speaking of, by the way, did you see the story that Victor Wembanyama in the offseason? I didn't know this until I saw this video. He trained with monks in the offseason, shaved the head, and there was a picture of him running beside a monk. And I don't know if that has had anything to do with what he's doing this season, but he's blocking everybody in sight. He's hitting step-back threes. He's hitting half-court shots. There's nothing this guy is not doing. So, hey, maybe that's the cure, John. Maybe if we're feeling low, I'll call you up. Hey, I'm okay. Well, do you want to go train with some monks?
No.
Let's go hang out for a week and let's see what we can do. I don't need to shave my head. You do, because I'm already done.
They are far better in mental shape than I am, and I could never go with a shaven head anyway. I'll lose it on my own. I won't have to shave it.
No, and I started to lose this years ago, and I'm like, I'm just going to go with it. Like, go with it. Accept it. Deal with it. I pull it off.
Mm-hmm.
What's going to happen here, John? This is it's a massive thing. October 23rd, everybody knows this by now. 2 indictments, 34 total arrests. NBA's betting scandal, Chauncey Billups, Terry Rozier, former player Damon Jones. Everyone's linked to the mafia with this. Everyone's linked to gambling. Everyone's linked to these fake glasses and trying to this. I know that Shaq and the rest of that group with Ernie and Chuck and Kenny Smith came on and talked about it. And I thought what Shaq said, he said it well. One of the things he said was everybody at the beginning of the season gets a memo from the league about gambling.
They have folks come and visit from like Washington.
Yeah, so it's a big deal.
And the league security office and all of these things. It's like there's a reason that we sit there and we tell you about these things. And if you choose to ignore what we are telling you about these things, then that is a problem. And I wonder how many of them sit there and go,
I'm sure a lot of them do.
But
I'm sure a lot of them do.
And it's just, and it comes back and it bites you, and you're just kind of like, well, we told you this.
And Shaq said, and Shaq said, too, he said, when it comes to the FBI, when the FBI comes knocking on your door,
mm-hmm.
they have something. Because it's not like they spend a day doing this in a week. They spent years. So they have something. Anyway, Chauncey Billups, I think, has hired a former lawyer associated with Donald Trump. So we'll see if that ends up helping him. But look, the NBA, this has been something, John, that's been going on for a very long time. Referees, Tim Donaghy, I believe that was his name, if I'm not mistaken, off the top of my head.
Officiating, yeah.
So, come on, man. Like as Shaq said, how much money do you need?
Mm-hmm.
Don't be stupid. Now you've affected not only you as an individual, but you've affected the league you play in, that you're privileged to play in or coach in. You've affected the teammates you're either coaching or playing with. But most importantly, you've affected your family. And that is the most important thing. It's too bad.
Well, and I mean, if you are discussing that kind of a thing when you're talking about gambling in and of itself, I think, and this was something that I thought about a little bit, I was wondering about the idea of competing. And, you're always wondering, okay, if you're retired, you've always got that itch to want to compete at something. You always want to win something. And so sometimes when you're an athlete, this is that outlet when you're not on the floor. You have other outlets to do these kinds of things. When you're retired, you're probably still looking for that outlet to compete. You can prove to yourself and to everyone else around you, yes, I can still compete at whatever level, doing whatever. I still have the mental capacity to compete, and I can win here, I can win here, I can win here. So I think that plays a part of it. But at the same time, in this particular situation, I know we're talking about setting things up and setting people up and knowing that they're rigged and all this kind of stuff. It's just like, to Shaq's original point, dude, you got enough money. But I know that we're balancing that with the idea of competing in these situations, and so that's where I am. I am intrigued about the NBA response is going to be, and how many folks fall when we finally do get the information as it's trickled out to us piece by piece.
And I think that there's going to be some others down the road. There is going to be some others down the road. This is something that's been in the league for a long time, and it's reared its ugly head, obviously, with this latest arrest, I guess, when it comes to this gambling stuff. So anyway, I want to talk NFL quickly with you, and I understand we go back to load management. These guys are some of the toughest athletes in the world. You play once a week, you practice. You don't go full tilt to practice, obviously, but you play once a week, and then you go full tilt with that. So Carson Wentz, everyone's kind of saying, oh, the Vikings need to give him an apology. They owe him an apology. So what happened was Carson Wentz he's now done for the season. He's been injured. And last week against the Chargers, Wentz started his fifth straight start in place of J.J. McCarthy, who, according to the team, would only serve as the emergency quarterback as he was dealing with a high ankle sprain. So there's Carson Wentz with a harness, other wraps to help his injury to his non-throwing shoulder, preparing to get into another game. And then at the end of it all, week to week, day to day, shoulder dislocation, John, torn labrum, fractured socket. So he's been playing with all that stuff since the 5th of October. Two things. Number one, Carson, yeah, I get how tough you are, but this is an absolutely ridiculous move that you did. Secondly, if the Vikings were so specific on protecting McCarthy and the other quarterbacks, why weren't they so specific on protecting Carson Wentz? Carson Wentz said, yes, it was my decision. The Vikings were saying, they didn't put him under any pressure, but come on. If I knew that you were playing with that since the 5th of October, I don't care who was behind you. I would say, your health is way more significant and important. We're going to put somebody else in. Even if we lose a game, I'm not going to lose you for the season, but that's what's happened.
Well, and I mean, it goes back to that whole idea of competing. So what are you staring at? And if you're Carson Wentz, first and foremost, I mean, Carson Wentz, I was shocked at literally the injuries that he had and that he was playing through them. But at the same time, I was equally disappointed about the lack of knowledge of it, if that makes any sense.
Sure it does.
If you are a broadcast talent, I don't know where the disconnect was. I don't know where the information disconnect happened. I mean, if it was just the Vikings not saying anything or having you say it, say it off the record so you hang on to it or whatever. But Carson Wentz, I mean, if the Vikings were that hurt up on a backup quarterback for J.J. McCarthy and that they had Wentz out there, all I'm going to say is this. You better take care of Carson Wentz. Considering everything that he wanted to do for your team to make sure that you would try and be as competitive as possible. And also, I would also have a conversation with the offensive line in that game that did not keep Carson Wentz upright to where he could at least attempt to perform to the level that that he wanted to do. But when what was said, like I said, I don't know where the level of information up, down, and sideways was.
Something was missed.
Yeah, so just the biggest thing there is, this is Journalism 101. Make sure that you have all the information that you need, whether on the record or off, so you can be as informed as possible when you're doing a live event.
It was hard to see him wincing in pain, John. Hard to see him wincing in pain. Last one. I know. I tried. It was toward the end. So LSU, as everybody knows, they're paying Brian Kelly $53 million to stop coaching. You see what I wrote? His winter activities for guests. I didn't know about this, but I saw this the other day. So there was a story, since this has now come out, that's been making the rounds, and it happened back in, I think, 2019 or something like that. Anyway, it happened years ago. So what it was Kelly was at Central Michigan, and two guys were working as graduate assistants for him at Central Michigan. And they were Matt LaFleur, who became the coach of the Packers in 2019, and also Robert Saleh, who was also became a head coach. While working, they went to Kelly's home. They were invited to his home.
I'm going to let you tell the story. This is just about par.
When they arrived, they learned that they were invited not to the party but to work. Salah said, "We shoveled the snow, parked all the cars, and then at the end of the night, we had to go get the cars again." They both decided, him and LaFleur said, "We decided that when we're in that position, we're never going to treat people the way we got treated, and Matt LaFleur has lived up to it." Come on.
Nothing surprises me.
I can tell.
And especially... and now you have the athletic director for LSU, Scott Woodward, who now has basically been told yesterday as we're talking that the governor of the state of Louisiana said he was not going to be involved in the process to determine who the next head coach was going to be, also considering the fact that, they don't have a president right now. They have an interim. So everything kind of goes to the Board of Regents and the Grand Exalted Poobah Star Chamber, which includes the governor of the state of Louisiana. So he said what he said, and Scott Woodward now in his last two gigs has had contract parachutes of over $145 million for the two coaches that he had leave in his last two gigs. It's just, look, the whole Brian Kelly thing was a bad fit in the first place. When Brian Kelly starts to yell at his assistants and be overly physical with them, you know that, that the career dissipation light in that particular place is out the door. We just continue to see who Brian Kelly is. All I'm going to do is mention to folks about Notre Dame and scissor lifts. That's your Google search. Notre Dame and scissor lifts. That should tell you, that should have been the first thing to tell you about Brian Kelly and his thought processes when it comes to day-to-day operations. The Central Michigan story sadly doesn't surprise me. I don't know where Brian Kelly's next step is. It might be on a beach with a long 12-foot fishing line. I don't know. If I'm an athletic director, I am not hiring him. If I am a university president, I am not picking up his phone calls, because the fake Southern accent didn't work. His philosophy didn't work. The way he treats quarterbacks did not work, specifically this year with Garrett Nussmeier, where you put an injured quarterback out there who was going with, and we talk about injuries, he had a patella injury at the beginning of the season. So for me, the easiest thing to do when it came to playing defense against LSU was make Garrett Nussmeier roll the pocket and have an offensive line that was chasing shadows. You see the problems that were attached there. You end up with something that was out of control at 5-3, and he's gone, and this should not be a surprise. The coaching search, if I could get my upper plate to work at LSU, will be an adventure. We'll be covering it, don't get me wrong, but I don't know where Brian Kelly's next steps are. It might be TV for a TV reclamation project, or he might be an analyst under somebody's just to sit.
But even then, for a TV reclamation project, why would somebody with a resume like that and a track record be given a chance like that? How many chances do you need? I'm fully about giving second chances and maybe thirds, but when all this stuff continues to happen, and everything that you said was perfect in describing him. So if I didn't know who Brian Kelly was, and you just said to me, I'm going to describe someone in different scenarios that have happened with him because of him in the last number of years, I would have said, is that person still coaching? Is that person going to have another job? That would have been my first question.
Not denying that he was a great coach at Grand Valley State.
Sure, right.
He was a great coach in the Division II level, getting national championships, which meant that getting to Central Michigan was a no-brainer. You work your way into MACtion, and then you build from there. Then you build your way into the Notre Dame program, and then I think that's where you start to, sit there and see who the true individual is. You can get your level of success to a point, and then you find out who the real individual is. Sometimes when you hit that level, then you want the coach, and you keep everything else to the side.
Jon, we're out of time. Enjoy the World Series Game 6 tonight. I know you're
just get it done.
I know you're pulling for the Jays.
Get it done. Literally, I have people sitting there going on this side of the border, so are you rooting for the Dodgers? They don't even finish the sentence. I go, no. Well, but why? No.
No.
What are you? No. Under no circumstance. Look, for those of you that may not know the first incarnation of this show, I am an Angels fan. I grew up an Angels fan. I remember Reggie Jackson at the Big A in Anaheim.
Yeah.
Reg. All of that stuff. Under no circumstance am I a fan of our owner. All you have to do is also look at the current lawsuit that is being tendered in court currently and the proceedings therein as to how messed up the organization can be at times. Not a fan of our owner. It was almost a national holiday when last year he said he was going to sell. But then he said, no, I think I'm good. Then we get nothing for Shohei Ohtani. We sit there and we hang on to him. We sit there and it's like, yeah, we're going to hang on to him. He's going to be a free agent at the end of the year. We're going to let him walk at that point. Nothing by the trade deadline except a couple of older players that you thought could help out. And you sit there and figure it out that they got injured. You ended up finishing 9 games worse than when you picked up those old players instead of jettisoning Shohei Ohtani to try to get resources for him. So you get nothing for him. You're 20 games under 500. You don't make the wild card. You still have the same owner. And now we're looking up northwest, up the I-5 to see what's going on with the Doyers. You think I'm rooting for the Doyers? The answer is no. Get it done.
Thank you, Jon.
Get it done, Toronto.
See ya.
Bye.